It's clear that we need radical new ideas about how and why we work. To do so, we need to adopt a wider perspective about what the future of society will look like and how we can get there. We had Paul Walley go talk to Duncan at Oxfam about how systems thinking can allow us to do just this.
Can I just start by asking you to tell me what you see systems thinking as?
So in Oxfam, I think systems thinking is about pulling back the lens on the camera and looking at the whole of the context. So you're saying, okay, we look at, the classic metaphor is we look at teaching the fisherman to fish, and then we now look at what's the state of the water in the river. Is it the fishermen or the fisherwomen? What's the state of the care economy in which they are living? Who's governing the rules on the catches? Are they going to have to pay a bribe when they catch some fish and try and sell it? Can they even get it to market? So you zoom out and suddenly you see this much more complex system in which your intervention, your project, is supposed to achieve impact. And unless you think about the whole system, it's quite likely your project will achieve very little.
Okay, so what kinds of examples can you give me of Oxfam applying systems thinking to projects?
Well, often I think Oxfam staff don't consciously apply systems thinking. It's just that the good staff do it naturally. I mean, that's one thing I've noticed. So, for example, in Tanzania, DFID came to us and said, we want you to try something different on governance and accountability, getting local government to listen to local villagers. And we had this genius kind of local program person who said, okay, well, we don't know what to do, so what we'll do is we'll try 8 different approaches, everything from street musicians to a radio show to school management committees. And then after 9 months, we'll sit down with the local communities and local partners and say which ones would work best, and we'll scale those up, and we'll close down the ones that are not working so well. So actually, she'd kind of reinvented evolution, because she was doing variation, selection, amplification, which is the kind of core process of evolution. And she just worked it out from first principles, which always just amazes me when people come up with this kind of thing.
I think stakeholder management's quite an important aspect of systems work, isn't it?
Absolutely. So we get people to stand back and, typically in the aid NGO sector, people start off with a very limited sense of stakeholders, the state and the people. And then when you start talking to them, they have a much more nuanced understanding, and you start unpacking the ecosystem and start thinking, okay, so there are these 20 stakeholders who will affect whether that fishing community can fish.
Yeah, one of the things that struck me with a lot of the systems work in this kind of area is how the beneficiaries of some of the aid are treated as an equal stakeholder in many instances.
On a good day, okay, I don't want to oversell what Oxfam does or what other NGOs do. There's always a problem that in many cases, we have a clash of accountabilities. So we are accountable upwards to the people who give us the money, and we're accountable downwards to the people we're trying to help. And if those two come into tension, often money talks. So there is always a real tension to try and be accountable to the communities, to have proper consultation, just as in the research world. It's very easy to say I'm going to have participation of local communities, but there's no budget to go back and then present the findings of the research, and you end up just being quite extractive. So there are always these clashes of incentives which stop you doing what you want to do.
Yeah, I do think sometimes that there's a temptation to impose a Western solution on a non-Western situation.
There are temptations in all directions. So the one temptation is, I've got this great idea, I'm going to impose it. Another one is, everybody knows their own answers, we're just going to uncover the richness, which is partly there, but actually people want new ideas and new technologies and new things. So there's a danger of being over romantic and being over and being very arrogant. They're equal. They're not equal, but they're both risks, I think.
Okay. And what about the challenges of implementing this kind of systems work? Do you see many?
Oh, lots. So, I mean, there's external challenges. So, we're in a world now where the funders will say, "What are you going to do?" And they want to know pretty much in advance what you want to do. They want to know what results you're going to get, and then they want you to measure those results and to be able to attribute any improvement to what you did. Now, a lot of that is actually anathema to systems thinking. So if there are multiple feedback loops, numerous stakeholders, everybody interacting with everybody else, A, it's very hard to predict the change, and B, it's very hard to attribute any change to one particular intervention. So you're in a situation where people are asking for the impossible in some cases, and that can distort what you do in two ways. One, it means you actually look for the places which are simple, where you can get in, vaccinate some kids, get out again, before the system sort of collapses on you. Or you actually just, lie, to be honest. You do complex interventions, you improvise, you surf the tide of events, and then when you report back to head office, you say, no, the project went great, the project went to plan. And yeah, there's been some really interesting anthropological work looking at how aid workers live this double life of facing out in complex systems and facing back in simple linear systems, and doing both at the same time. I think it's a monumental waste of effort, and that part of the reason I'm publishing and writing and thinking about this is to get people moving to a more engaged approach with systems.
Yeah, it changes the style of working, and in particular the way that things are managed.
Yeah, I mean, there's a wonderful book by a woman called Donella Meadows called Thinking in Systems, who says we have to learn to dance with the system. So I always tell our staff that you need to be fundamentally curious about how the system is changing before you think about what you're going to do. You have to want to dance with the system, and then you can think of your own moves a bit. But it's that curiosity and wanting to find the answers that are popping up anyway in the system, and build on those rather than think I'm coming in from the outside with these great ideas, and lucky old people, they're going to just absorb them. And that's the worst way to do it.
Yeah. What do you think are the main benefits that you get out of this approach?
The main benefits is, if you caricature the old way of doing aid, it was, I'm going to do all my thinking up front. I'm then going to spend 3 years implementing the plan I came up with through all that thinking. And then at the end of 3 years, I'm going to evaluate. Right? And then typically when you do the evaluation, you find that either all or some of it didn't work. So one major benefit is that you realize what's not working much earlier, and you think as you go, and you learn as you go. It's as if, if I ride my bicycle across London and I set out in advance the direction of travel and the velocity at all points for the way I get across London, I'm going to die before I get to the end of the road. You've got to respond to the traffic, the situation, and you adjust. So we're trying to make projects and interventions by organisations like Oxfam smart like riding a bike rather than trying to drive a tank.
Get more from the Open University. Check out the links on screen now.